Hey everybody, welcome back to the Salerno podcast. This is episode 78. I'm your host as always, Vince Salerno. I was not expecting to be back recording a fresh new episode so soon. My interview with Steve Baker has been taking a while to put together just because we talk about a lot, and I wanted to be represented not only audio-wise, just by Steve's incredible knowledge of the world of Dune, but also visually. So I'm trying to gather the best pictures and videos to support what he's saying, and hopefully get people like you who watch and listen to this show more interested in the world of Dune. As I sip on my coffee from my Star Wars mug. So stay tuned for part 2 and maybe part 3. It's a long interview, so I don't know if I'm going to make this the last part or if I'm going to make it a 3-part or a trilogy. But that will be episode 80. That will be the next episode going out after this episode. But today, there was a lot of stuff in the news that I wanted to talk about, specifically pertaining to Disney. So I want to talk about Disney today. And I think the biggest thing that happened this past week was the first teaser trailer that got released for Moana 2, which came as a shock to some of you casual audience members who may not know that Moana 2 was even in the works. Or even happening at all. Well, yes, it is. And it's a very interesting story that I don't think a lot of people know or understand completely. And there are some great people out there doing some great behind-the-scenes reporting of what's going on or what is going on with Moana 2. And so I just want to bring that to light. I want to compare what we know with what we've seen in the trailer and the type of trailer that we got, and if that's indicative of good things to come for Disney or bad things to come for Disney. So let's just get right into it. First off, I do want to say I'm a particularly loyal fan to the Moana brand. I know somebody who worked on the film, and I just think it's one of the few modern Disney films that really feels like a return to form for like classic Disney. I mean, it feels kind of like a perfect amalgamation of like Hercules, that particular vibe. And I think it's the presence of Maui, to be honest. Just, we're dealing with instead of Norse mythology, we're dealing with demigods and the Polynesian culture. And I just think, Polynesian culture is very fascinating, and I think it was portrayed excellently. Is that a word? Excellently, whatever. In the film, and my wife and I are big fans of the movie. We just watched it a couple weeks ago, and still love it. Still holds up. I think it's a darn near perfect Disney film, and it's if it's not considered a Disney classic, it really should be, because I think that's how good it is. In fact, case in point, I bought this for my wife when I think this was a Christmas gift for her when we were first starting to date. I got her a stuffed Pua pig. So yeah, we're pretty big Moana fans in this household. So anything new coming out of the Moana brand, we're invested in its quality. We want to see it do well. So not only is this just like, oh, is Disney going to screw up again? Are they going to continue making more flubs? This is, I'm a fan of this brand, and I am interested in seeing it be successful, especially when you consider this one of, if not Disney's most successful, most popular Disney princess brand. I know Frozen, it's already had 2 sequels and countless specials and stuff, but I think most people, I mean, there was a Disney stat a couple of months ago, I think, or maybe last year, that said that Moana was the most streamed Disney animation feature film on Disney Plus. That's insane. No wonder they're continuing this franchise in multiple facets that I'm a little concerned about, but nevertheless, let's go back to the beginning. So if you remember, in I believe it was 2020, there was this very public shareholders meeting for Disney fans and Disney shareholders and all that. It was a this big internet stream for people who wanted to hear about Disney's success as well as what is to come. It's very typical shareholders meeting, but it was, for some reason, this one was made public. I mean, I know they're all made public. You can call in if you're an investor and you can listen in on these things, but this one was like a big video spread, like that you saw all the heads of the studios. Bob Iger, Bob Chapek, I believe they were in a transitional phase at that point in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Pete Docter of Pixar, Kathleen Kennedy of Lucasfilm, Kevin Feige of Marvel Studios. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her name, but the woman who runs Disney Animation, she directed Frozen and Frozen 2. I feel horrible. I forgot her name. Oh man. Okay, whatever. Moving on. They took the time to announce a slew of new projects, and one of them from Disney Animation was a Moana Disney Plus series, and I got pretty excited for that. As a fan of Moana, I was like, okay, cool. We're finally getting a continuation of the Moana world, because at this point, I think we had already had Frozen 2. We already had a sequel to the Tangled world with the Disney Channel series, I think. And all the while, me being a fan of Moana, I was like, where's the love for Moana? When are we going to get more Moana? Movie came out almost 10 years ago, for crying out loud. At least maybe it was about 5 years ago at that point. So I was happy to hear we were getting more from that world. And I don't know if it was confirmed at that point if Ali Cravalho and Dwayne Johnson were going to be back in their roles for that series. Based on what's gone down, it seems like that wasn't the case, which is very disappointing. Or at least they hadn't been reached out to record lines or something. I don't know. Very weird situation. Anyways, that's all we had heard for a while. We'd heard that it was going to be an 8-episode series. It would debut sometime in the near future, along with a Tiana series based on the Princess and the Frog character, along with a bunch of other projects. And it wasn't Moana 2, wasn't like a direct sequel, but it was going to be the closest thing we'd get. And this was at a time when Disney was trying to jam-pack Disney Plus with tons of content. I mean, I think this was a year after Disney Plus had launched. So they wanted to get people invested in subscribing. I was one of the many people who subscribed the day of to Disney Plus. And the first thing I watched was episode 1 of The Mandalorian. It's funny how things have changed now. This is, by the way, this is all mostly findings from WDW Pro, or That Park Place. I want to link their videos in the description of this episode, because these are not my findings. These are not, I mean, some of these conclusions are my own personal conclusions, but like the facts that I'm sourcing here are from them. They are doing really great reporting on this stuff. They have really great sources within Disney and all throughout Hollywood. And I highly recommend you guys subscribe to their channel if you want really good in-depth analyses. I think that's a word. Analyses of what's going on in Disney, and specifically Moana. They have some great videos covering what's going on with Moana. So 2020, trying to jam-pack Disney Plus with tons of streaming content, right? Fast forward to 2023, 2024. Funny how things change in about 3 or 4 years. Disney is struggling financially, not just because of dwindling Disney Plus numbers, but I mean, we know why the Disney Plus numbers are down, because of wokeness. People don't trust Disney as a brand anymore, and that's why Star Wars, Marvel, almost anything they put out, even if it is remotely good, is suffering right now. last year was one of the worst years in Disney box office history. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. That's one of the greatest IPs in the history of IPs from the storied halls of Lucasfilm. Bombed. And rightly so, because I think it was a really bad movie and it was a hastily put together final outing for Harrison Ford and a complete misunderstanding of Indiana Jones and that franchise and the type of storytelling that you need to invoke for an Indiana Jones movie. So we'll get into that. I want to talk about Indiana Jones 5. I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time, but that's for another day. The Little Mermaid. What else did they put out last year? I don't even remember. All these films did poorly compared to what they've done. Compared to 2019. 2019 was like the last great year for Disney, in my opinion. Toy Story 4, Frozen 2, Avengers Endgame, all billion-plus hits. $1 billion+ hits, to be specific. And fast forward to 2023, and even now, they are trust has gone down. That's why people have not subscribed to Disney Plus. That's why the box office numbers are down. People do not trust the name Disney anymore. To the point where when they put out the teaser trailer for Mufasa, the Lion King movie coming out in December, it's ratioed into oblivion because, one, I don't think people want to see a prequel to the live action Lion King, which, while it was a good nostalgia trip and I applaud it for that, it was mostly just used as a vehicle to develop the technology for the Mandalorian. I mean, it's adamantly clear that Jon Favreau loved the guy, but he used that movie to just get the Mandalorian made. I think that was his ultimate goal. He played ball. He played the long game. But if you're going to make a prequel to the Lion King, make a 2D prequel to the original film. I mean, I know that's hard to do because you don't have. I mean, most of the original cast is still alive. You're not going to get James Earl Jones to come back, I don't think, and not that you would because this is a younger version. But it's just a weird. I think it's weird to want to make a prequel to the live action Lion King, and not the actual Lion King movie, the original. And not to mention the animation does not look finished. It looks just looks half baked. I don't know how else to describe it. It just looks incomplete and half baked. That should be an indication that your company is not producing the results that it should. That people do not trust this company to give them entertainment that will be worth their time. That this company will give people entertainment that will not give their kids ideologically driven messaging to program them to accept things that people don't agree with, like transgenderism and the LGBTQ stuff that keeps getting forced into these movies, like political messaging and talking about race and just blatant racism in these movies. So the streaming service is not doing the numbers. The box office is not where it needs to be. And Disney, after the proxy war against Nelson Peltz, which sadly, Nelson Peltz lost, Bob Iger says that they're forging a path to make things right. And Nelson Peltz, at this point, he's probably just going to sit back and let things play out as they will. And if things do not go the way that Bob Iger says they're going to go, I'm sure we'll see Nelson Peltz back next year to take down the Mouse House, or reclaim the Mouse House. But anyways, immediately after that, like the day after it was announced that Bob Iger had won the proxy war, they put out this very short, very just non-descriptive, no details teaser announcement video for Moana 2, which was an absolute shock to me. I mean, normally I would be like delighted. Oh my gosh, finally we're getting a Moana 2. But this was made all the more confusing and concerning when in this announcement, at the very end, it says, in theaters, November 2024. Mind you, this is an announcement that was made in the beginning of February. I believe February 7th, if I'm not mistaken. We had not heard a thing about Moana 2. Which is normal practice. Sometimes animated movies are in development for a long time before they are actually officially announced, and then maybe they'll announce it officially a year before, like 2 years or a year before, like the first teaser or the movie's actually coming out. We've seen this before. Like Toy Story 4 was announced, I think in 2017, 2018, but it had been in development for quite some time. And I mean, same with, anything, almost most Pixar movies. Animated movies take a long time to make. They're not made overnight. There's a lot. You have to render out animation. You have to do writing, rewriting. I mean, the way Disney's process, at least their process of how they used to make movies, I don't know if that's the process nowadays. Their process when it comes to making movies is very structured and very focused on, we have to deliver the best product, and they are constantly reworking the film up until release, constantly changing things, constantly re-recording lines, pulling out scenes, adding new scenes. It's a process that really has yielded the best results. I mean, it's how Moana was made, the original. And I was very concerned and thought, what in the world? Moana 2? And you announce it not even a year, like 3, no, sorry, not 3, like 7 to 8 months before it's supposed to come out? Seriously? I was beside myself. I could not believe what I was seeing. And then this article, I believe it was from Deadline, either Deadline or Variety. I'll put it up here. Came out with Bob Iger explaining why Moana was turned from a Disney Plus series into a theatrical film. So Moana 2 is that Disney Plus series that was announced back in 2020 that has now been repurposed into a movie, a theatrical movie. Now, why? Well, in this article, the official reason is Iger and co. loved the footage so much that they thought this has to go into theaters. So they decided to force their studio to overhaul over time, working their butts off to get this to theatrical quality. That's what I'm assuming is happening. There's no way that they are just letting, their employees like work casually on this movie. If this was not to theatrical standards, and now this has to be theatrical standards, they are probably forcing, like at this moment, the entire Disney animation studio to work overtime to get this movie, which was a Disney Plus show. And keep in mind, these movies take about 3 to 5 years to make, roughly, give or take. They're overhauling that whole process in the span of less than a year. I don't believe that. I don't believe that you saw this footage and thought, yeah, get that in theaters. The more likely explanation, according to WDW Pro, and I subscribe to this as well, based on what I've heard, is that because Disney Plus is not profitable, they need to make it look profitable. How do you make this service look profitable? You offload content that has not been released on the service, so it looks like you're not spending money on the service. The best example of why they're doing this, or the best example of this, is with coincidence, The Mandalorian. Okay, sorry about that interruption, guys. My son is going to bed, and again, his bedroom is right next to my office where I record, and the walls are paper thin. So my child's well-being, of course, comes first. Where was I? So Disney Plus is not profitable, and they need to offload content to make it look profitable because people are just not subscribing in the way that they had hoped. So the best example of what they're doing is with The Mandalorian. So The Mandalorian, in case you didn't know, they announced that there's a Mandalorian movie coming to theaters, directed by Jon Favreau, called The Mandalorian and Grogu, which I, amongst many people, hope to God they change that title because I just don't think it's a good title. So basically, that's The Mandalorian Season 4. The reason why they chose to make the Mandalorian movie instead of the Mandalorian Season 4 is, like I said, offloading content off Disney Plus to make it look profitable because they're not spending that money on making a Mandalorian show. They're spending theatrical money to make a theatrical movie, not streaming money to make a streaming show. And just like that, Disney Plus looks profitable. Not because people are subscribing in vast quantities, not because people are watching the content, because content is being offloaded and repurposed or just scrapped altogether. I'm sure there are Marvel shows that have been canceled outright that are going to never see the light of day, I hope. Although they are still planning to release the Agatha All Along series, and apparently Ironheart as well. If this is the path they're wanting to take to offload content and make money off Disney Plus, or make it look profitable, I'd start with maybe those two shows. That's just me. So that's what happened with Moana. That's exactly what happened with Moana. This was an opportunity, and look, maybe the footage was so good that they thought, well, we're trying to offload content off Disney Plus. Let's just turn this into a movie. It's great. It looks great. It'll perform well. Maybe that is part of the explanation. I want to be reasonable, but it'll be evident based on the quality of the movie itself. If Moana 2 is not up to par with Moana 1, I hate saying Moana 1 or like Toy Story 1 or whatever. I hate saying that, but for clarity's sake, Moana 1, then I don't know what Iger was thinking. I don't think he it'll be very suspicious to me, him saying, "Oh yeah, we thought the streaming service was so good that we had to turn it into a movie." If the movie is not good, then I highly doubt that. And they probably just thought Moana 2, or just the Moana brand in general, is a great way to drive people back to the theaters. This is a very important year for Disney, especially theatrically. When you consider Inside Out 2 is coming out as well, we need to see if Pixar can perform as well as they used to, especially with a sequel, a beloved brand like Inside Out. I think Inside Out is a top 10 Disney film. I love the movie. Pixar film. I love the movie. I'm very excited for the sequel. Right now, I haven't seen anything that indicates that it's going to be bad. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about the presence of anxiety and how that sort of reinforces this very trapping and non-freeing conversation about mental health, where like the more we talk about mental health, the worse it gets. And we don't allow people to actually like break free from their mental health struggles. It's just like we just keep talking about it to death, and it's just going to get worse. And this is not going to help things. Well, look, I'm no female anatomy expert, but you know when I know that when it comes to puberty, it is a time of it is a time of anxiety for a lot of women, a lot of girls. So and guys with puberty. I mean, everybody is just insecure. So insecurity breeds anxiety. I get it. So I'm trying not to make any grand assumptions that Disney is trying to make this a sort of toxic statement about mental health. Gosh, I hope not. But I mean, you never know. You can't trust Disney these days. So I don't blame people for being less than cautiously optimistic about this movie, but I actually have faith that this is going to be a return to form for Pixar in the sense that it'll be a straight laced Inside Out sequel. Will it do the numbers that the original film did? I don't know. I don't think the excitement is as palpable as it was for the first movie, but we'll see. We'll see. But theatrically, they have Inside Out 2, which was a proper film that they were working on developing, and I think went through the normal development process. They never rushed it out. I believe it was announced in 2022. They had been working on it before then. Versus Moana, which was, again, a Disney Plus show repurposed into a movie that the entirety of Disney Animation is overhauling, working morning, noon, and night to get ready for a November release, which takes years to do. Keep in mind, I forgot to mention this, Ali Cravalho and Dwayne Johnson weren't even signed on for this movie until like a month maybe, or a couple weeks after they announced the movie was being made. So was Maui not in the show? Was Ali Cravalho not coming back to voice Moana? Were you going to get some other actress to voice Moana? Which doesn't make sense because even for the direct-to-DVD Disney movies, you had Jodie Benson returning to voice Ariel, I guess for Cinderella you really couldn't get the original voice actors because they probably dead, passed away. I'm assuming. But in most cases, when they could, they got the. Well, no, wait, sorry. Lion King 2 was a theatrical release, I believe. I don't remember. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch that one, but very religiously as a kid. But you know what I'm saying. These movies, these direct to DVD movies, like they took themselves fairly seriously, even to get the original cast back. And were you not going to get, like, if this Disney Plus series is like the equivalent of a direct to DVD sequel, like they used to do back in the early 2000s, then it's a little concerning that they would not get Ali Cravalho back as Moana. And they scrambled, it seems, to get them back for this sequel once they announced it was a theatrical sequel. And Dwayne Johnson like just completed recording lines, so it seemed like it was a rushed recording process, and maybe they'll come back for pickups and all that. But man, I mean, like, it's just completely unorthodox. And this all culminates in the release of the first teaser, which I'll admit, I got a chuckle out of the end, seeing Maui back and the boat snack joke, and Pua, like, referencing the fact that Pua was in all the marketing of the first movie, and then he was not in nearly as much of the movie as we thought he was going to be, and now he's in the adventure. I actually thought that was a really funny joke and a nice nod to the audience and to like the reception of the film. Like, oh, where's Pua? Pua gets justice. He's on the adventure. I liked that. But like the trailer starts out with that same announcement trailer footage, with like an additional little bit tacked on with a little crab finding a shell, and then Moana takes it and gives him a bigger shell, which I thought was confusing because I thought, like, oh, is that supposed to be the shell that is that like the conch shell she blows out of in that announcement? But then she just like reaches behind her and grabs conch shell, and it was a very confusing bit. I was like, why is this here? I don't understand why this is here. And the rest of the footage is just kind of it's a nothing burger. It's just like, oh, look how pretty this movie is. Oh, look, Moana's back. She's older. She's a wayfinder. She's holding her hand up like she did in the movie. Except I thought that was confusing because like she sees the island there. She doesn't need to put her hand up to know where to go. She already sees where she's going. The island's right there in front of her. And then it just seemed like everything else was kind of like sizzle shots that they had. Like it was the stuff that they prioritized to finish. Like, we got to get a nice trailer that shows like fun, like, you know, the Polynesians banging on the drums. We need to see her family bidding her goodbye. And we need some fun thing of her in the cave beating the drums, and then the drums beat back to her. It just all felt like vignettes. And it didn't seem like anything that was like, oh, what is this movie actually about? What are we going to get? You can think about that Frozen 2 trailer, that teaser, for example. That was an incredible teaser. First off, not a second of spoken dialogue. Well, maybe I think Elsa says like one word in the entire teaser, but it's nothing of significance. Completely silent. You see her like running across the ocean, this tumultuous ocean, and using her ice powers to walk across, and she gets swept up by the waves, and you see bits of you know, the ice crystals in the air. You see Sven and Kristoff riding with other reindeer. You see shots of Anna in peril, Elsa using her ice powers. Just it was all stuff that you know, intrigued you. Like, what is this about? What is going on? But also, kind of in this vein of this Moana trailer, just beautiful vignettes. This was all vignettes and no story. I mean, like, we saw some cool things, but I just didn't see anything that was just like, whoa, what is happening? Maybe with the exception of like the lightning shot through the meeting space and almost killing Moana. And then there were shots of some new characters joining her on this adventure. She sees a giant whale. It was just very underwhelming. I didn't feel this overwhelming sense like, I'm so intrigued. What is this movie about? Underwhelming, I guess, to say the least, with the exception of the final tag, seeing Maui and Moana back together. But the animation looks beautiful. It looks good. My only concern is the story. And with this rushed production, like, if this is repurposed from the same story as the Disney Plus series, was that story good enough? Was it secure enough? And if this is the same story from the Disney Plus series, is that a strong enough story to be in an animated feature? Is it going to carry the same weight? I don't know. I mean, this trailer, I think this teaser needed to prove us wrong, and it didn't. It just it gave me you know, I guess, reassurance. Okay, the animation looks good. That's it. I mean, they could have easily done a gag trailer or something that's like not even in the movie, but I guess you don't really have time to render or animate that. Like, you could have done a Toy Story 4 teaser, which is a great teaser. You just see you see all the toys, you see everyone's back, and then all of a sudden Forky comes in and he just disrupts everything, and you're left with intrigue. Like, wow, what is this movie going to be about? There's a spork alongside the toys. What the heck is going on? And I just never got that. I never got it like this gripping feeling of like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to figure out what this movie's about. I'm still left with, I need to know more because I don't know if this is going to be good. So that's the gist of what you need to know about this Moana 2. Again, I highly recommend you guys go check out the great reporting from WDW Pro and That Park Place. They've done such a good job of covering Moana 2 and the behind the scenes, and again the job that Disney has to try and restructure the company and get it back to its former glory, which I don't know if it's ever going to do under Bob Iger, because Bob Iger kind of got us in this boat, and I don't know if Bob Iger is basically now doing the same thing he did when he was first in charge. And what he did was sequels that were not politically aligned. I mean, some of them were. I mean, we had some political messaging in Avengers Endgame, and just some weird feminism BLM stuff. Was specifically with Marvel, but I can't even remember what other things were in that direction. But anyways, he was very strategic about it, and very sinister about it. And now he is just like, nothing he's done. I mean, he thinks that just like resaturating the market with sequels is going to fix everything like it did in the past. And just, that's not what's going to happen, I don't think. Which brings me to another story. Really quick, I'm going to mention this. Pixar is apparently going to focus its efforts more towards I don't know if it's an even distribution, but increased efforts in distributing sequels. Specifically, they're going to focus on The Incredibles and Finding Nemo. Now, they didn't say, at least from what I've read, they haven't said sequels. They keep saying a new installment or a new story or a new film in the Incredibles world or the Finding Nemo world. That makes me incredibly nervous, because I don't want to see a spin-off of Finding Nemo where Marlin and Dory come in and make a cameo at the end, or a spin-off of The Incredibles where Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl make a cameo at the end. I don't want that. I don't need that. I don't want the reins being passed off to a new generation. We've seen that to a degree with Monsters Incorporated, to mixed results, and that's not even a Pixar production, mind you. I like Monsters at Work, the Disney Plus series that they created as a sequel to Monsters Inc. I think it's good. I just don't think it has the legs it needs to keep the brand going. I haven't even really rushed out to see the second season that just came out, which features the return of some pretty major characters. But its focus is on the side characters, and the main characters are in the background, which I've never been a fan of. Ever since Force Awakens, I've never been a fan of that. But this, if they're just being coy with the language, because they don't know what they're going to do right now, and their plan is to make a proper Incredibles 3, a proper Finding Nemo 3, that's fine. I love sequels. I love sequels as long as they're good. I don't mind sequels. A reboot or a spin-off or a retooling or a legacy sequel, no, not with these brands. People don't want to see that. People don't want to watch Toy Story 5 and see like the story passed on to a new character. They want to see Woody and Buzz continuing their story. So I hope that's the case with Toy Story 5, along with everything else that Pixar does sequel-wise. There is also a Inside Out spin-off apparently in the works at Disney Plus, which is bizarre because we also, I believe, heard that Disney Plus is going to focus less on streaming content, with the exception of their Win-Lose series, because the content that they put out has been not great. Like the Pixar popcorn, wow. Talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I don't blame Pixar. I'm sure Disney was commissioning and forcing them to do that, but wow. Just wow. So it's an interesting time. This is going to be an interesting year for Disney. I mean, we've already talked about Disney Animation with Moana 2. They have that to prove. Mufasa, Inside Out 2. You have The Acolyte coming out in a matter of weeks or days, I believe, which is not getting good press, not getting good reception from people. I just saw one of the cast members allegedly claim that because first off, he says Anakin Skywalker instead of Luke Skywalker because Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star. He is just as bad as any of the bad guys in Star Wars, and implying that, you know, good and bad are there's no absolute truth as far as what's good or what's bad, and which just makes me want to watch The Acolyte even less. Not that I even wanted to watch it from the beginning, but in fact, let's do a little experiment there. I'm going to put this up on Twitter and Instagram, but which one do you think I should watch, guys? I have avoided Andor, and I'm going to avoid The Acolyte. But I propose, my proposal is this. If enough people vote for this, I will watch and review one of those two shows that I refuse to watch. I am more willing to watch Andor because I have heard friends of mine say that it's actually not a bad show. It's actually not, it's very different, but it's not bad. Acolyte, I'm very hesitant to watch because it just does not look good. It does not look like a representation of what Star Wars is. And I'm not interested. But if enough people vote, I will watch one of those two shows and I will review them in its entirety. So I may be regretting this, but put it down there, guys. Vote away and let me know what I should do. So we'll see what happens with Disney. I know that there's a lot of conversation going on. Like, people want Disney to fail. People just think Disney deserves to fail. And I don't want Disney to fail or go away. I want Disney to understand the mistakes they're making and adjust. Understand that, like, your audience is children. It's not people like me. I mean, I'm a fan of Disney. I love Disney, and Disney is part of my childhood. It always will be. It'll always be important to me. But we're talking about kids and entertaining kids, and they have the greatest characters, the greatest brands for children, and children want to love these brands. But you make it impossible when you take it upon yourselves to be children's parents and teach them about things that their parents don't want them to learn about in that particular regard. So a certain percentage of your audience is turned off from watching Disney content, which is ridiculous because you should want everybody to watch your content, no matter where they come from, politically, religiously, culturally. Disney should be a unifier, not a divider. And Disney has been a divider for the past several years. And if Disney wants to stick around, they need to unite people. They need to unite audiences of all ages and cut this political messaging, the indoctrination, all of it. Cut it all out. Stop it. And I guarantee you, Disney, you'll see some results that will be somewhat reflective of what the past used to be for you guys. If not, then we're just going to keep playing the same song and dance, and we know what's going to happen then. So I remain cautiously optimistic for Moana 2, and most Disney projects coming out this year, but we'll follow it closely. I just think the Moana 2 thing is very fascinating. I'm very interested to see how this plays out and the quality of the movie. Maybe a new full trailer will convince me that this is actually going to be a solid film. We'll see. We'll see. Again, follow the reporting from WDW Pro and That Park Place. Check all that stuff out. They are doing some really great work. And that's the show. So thank you guys for listening or watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give this episode a like, give it a share. Please subscribe to this podcast, either on Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube. YouTube, you can check out, obviously the video format of this show, as well as trailer reactions I've done. I don't do them as much. I mostly do those on Instagram or as a YouTube short, so you can check those out in brief. So got a lot of stuff in the pipeline that I want to bring out there, so stay tuned for that. But if you like this podcast, this is the place to find it. So please subscribe, and all those platforms. I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great day. God bless, and peace out.